Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Recruit. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode where Xander is dead. Obviously, everything that can go wrong has kind of gone wrong because now the whole operation spiraled out. Obviously, Lester, once again, just those little peaks here and there where you kind of get to see who Lester was before, he became the lawyer that is, because we kind of see the more fun side of him from time to time. Well, throughout the entire show, especially like everything between him and Violet. But this episode, it really leans into the more like, nah, this is who Lester was beforehand. He's like, okay, I got to go up there. We got to like pack all Xander's stuff. Obviously, with the identity he used to kind of get here to his cover, like as long as we get rid of anything that ties him back to the agency, it should be fine. So they had to go up there, pack up all his stuff before the police ended up arriving upon the crime scene. It's like, cool. Did Owen or Max do this? It's like, well, who knows? They're in the wind and they can't contact anybody. So it's like, well, what do we do? And so Violet and Lester end up on a call with Nyland, Dawn, as well as like even Nyland's boss, played by Nathan Fillion, which was interesting. I was like, oh, that was kind of like, whoa, that just seemed like that came out of nowhere. But it's like, hey, so we need to find out what this is all about, what's going on here. Obviously, it's like, who the hell is Owen Hendricks? Like, once again, this newbie who just found himself in the middle of this, crappy situation. So now it is a situation of Dawn and Lester are basically given like secret orders because it's like, hey, you need to like you might not want to because it's going to interfere with your career. Because Nyland's like, I don't think Lester should be bouncing back and forth between what he was before versus like being the lawyer he is now. It's like he can't just switch the hats on and off when he needs to. But Nathan Fillion's character is like, no, he's going to do it. It's like, oh, it might ruin his career. Who cares? This calls for you to kind of step up as a CO again. So it's like, okay, so want you to look into this whole situation. And based on the implications of what he was kind of implying, like, if need be, they would have to kill Owen or whatever, which Lester was like, yeah, we know we're going to all lay the blame on Owen, but it seemed like he kind of took a step back because I don't know if it was implying like, oh, whether that was just in reference to Max or whether that was in reference to Owen or both of them, but it seemed like that kind of made, because despite the beef they had, it's like Lester's, maybe it's also because it's him leaning back into a job he didn't like anymore. I even thought it was interesting because Violet kind of gives him some guff later on. It's like, oh yeah, I'm the one going off being an actual lawyer. And he's like, okay. I guess she's not a fan of who he was before, but also it's just like, right, we've always been a team for such a long time. Where we go together, and you kind of going off on your own right now. It just feels like you're leaving me behind. I think she was legitimately hurt by, but it's like, yeah, I was given these orders, so I can't really, it's not a situation where I can really say no. It's, so there's that situation. Obviously, Violet ended up interrogating Terrence and Hannah about like, oh, Owen and what's your involvement in this. It's like, well, they can't necessarily admit that they know about Owen's circumstances because they have a connect, because Linus helped with the whole Geneva situation. So that's why they know this particular circumstance. And Owen hasn't gotten into specifics, but he has kind of told them enough in some situations, especially considering Amelia's the one that kind of rode up on their place to ask them for help about the whole thing. So, which later on when Nyland asked Owen about it later, he's like, yeah, because, Hannah called her mom ended up calling Keith ended up visiting Nyland about the whole Owen thing, and now it's like, wait, Xander's dead. It's like, okay, I want nothing to do with this, especially because Xander was throwing around his name of not Bob. So now it's like, yeah, I want nothing to do with this, make sure this doesn't connect back to me. My meetings with Owen were inconsequential at best, and I was never here. Do you understand me, Nyland? It's like he wants all the plausible deniability about everything that's going on. So it's just a situation of just everyone across the board. It's like, all right, we can either get this operation back on track if even possible, or we're just going to have to burn it and everything to the ground. So everyone's doing. I mean, it's like it's the nastiness of the spy game of like, yeah, it's either all green or everyone gets burned type of situation. Well, I mean, not everyone, but in the metaphorical sense of like the operation itself. But if anyone's going to get burned, it's going to be Max and Owen specifically. So. And kind of everyone else there, their whole sole purpose is to protect the agency, even screwing them over. Hey, we can help you, sure. But the main thing is protecting the agency. Like, obviously, they were told about that, Lester and Violet were specifically told about that, like, when they were sent to Geneva in episode 6, so. Well, at the end of episode 6, but. Despite everything going on, I do love that Owen did find a solution for him and Giannis's issues. That it's like, cool, I have some Russian intelligence that you could use, and it's like, oh man, this is perfect. It's like, okay, like I'm gonna email it to you. It's like, no, because if there's ever a situation where there's an investigation, they would come up in Discovery. It's like, all right, I'm gonna put them in the draft of my Instagram. You're gonna log into my Instagram, and you're gonna you're gonna copy those notes, and then you're gonna delete them. I was like, wow, that's so interesting that's how they went about it. But I love when Giannis is explaining to the dude. The dude's kind of a meathead, the person he's I mean, I guess that's why it's kind of like why we're in the why they're all in the circumstances that they are. So it's like, okay, you're gonna show up here and you're gonna like hit this place, and oh my god, you're gonna stumble across the weapons, and you're also gonna stumble across this Russian intelligence that you happen to stumble across. It's like, okay, I want you, and you're gonna destroy the weapons, and when it's all said and done, you'll actually be heralded as a hero. Poof, this will all go away. With what you ended up finding, you'd be able to kind of like, people ignore like, oh, how did these weapons end up in the hands of terrorists in the first place? That would be kind of a footnote that no one cares about. It's like, oh, so you want us to destroy the notes? So he's like, no, bring me the notes. It's like, he's like, okay, like the guys are responding like almost like okay, cool, yeah. And just like, oh, I'm worried for Giannis because I'm like, are you sure that's going to work out? That seems like that's ready to kind of go super sideways too, but we never cut back to it, so you could only hope that everything worked out in the end, so. But, obviously Owen and Max are going to, meet up with Dawn. And now it is a situation of like, also I'm going to tell you everything that Dawn's doing. Her shtick has been, she's making up fake assets. Assets get paid based on the type of intelligence that they give. So she's made up fake people, and she's been, fake assets, and she's been pocketing the money that the CIA has been sending her to pay these, people. So, I guess maybe she's been in that situation where, like, I guess maybe she's witnessed it with other assets, or maybe Dawn's taken a little slice of her pie or whatever, like the CIA was paying, Max. But maybe, I don't know. So that's the dirt that she has on. What's also interesting, too, is, and this was something I was curious about, because I brought it up, too. I was like, oh, would Kirill be able to, like, move that fast? Even Max is like, yeah, the person who killed Xander, that might not have had anything to do with Kirill. Like, for one, I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive, but even he can't move and orchestrate something like that fast. So say, like, whoever killed him most likely could have been coming after, like, me or us. So that is something to kind of keep in mind. And it's like, that even, obviously, throughout the episode, that's not something we've still got fully resolved on what this is all about. But regardless, you have Hannah staying in Geneva because she's got to figure things out. Because obviously she's not too keen on going back to her life because she's kind of having a bit of a midlife crisis considering like everything happening. And it's just a reminder like, right, I'm not happy with my life now. And what's my life going to be look like in 5 years if I'm unhappy with things now and I'm continuing down this road and this path and trajectory? And just, I mean, especially because her mom was like, cool, I'm going to look into this Owen thing for you, but you're going to have to move out because he's derailing your life. And for her, it's like, yeah. It also kind of ties back into that college thing, where it's like Owen kind of made her just kind of cut loose a little bit and have more fun. And that's something she brought up a couple episodes ago, whether or not she was going to miss out on like, oh, my youth and having fun because I was too busy just kind of like my fast track or just on the road that has kind of been set forth for me. And Terrence is like, obviously there's a lot to figure out, but also figure out you and Owen, like how you feel about him, because until you figure that out, there's no moving forward for you. But when she got a notice, someone texting her and be like, oh, they're in Prague. I'm like, who the hell is that? It's a block number, which I'm like, well, at first I was like, not unless it's Amelia. But I feel like, why text? Why not call? Well, they know each other enough for her to be able to say that, but that's why I'm like, I don't think Amelia would do that. So I was like, that's suspicious. At first I was like, that feels like a major setup. I don't know, maybe it was Amelia, because I'm like, who else could have like texted where he was? At first I was like, not unless it was Max, because I started wondering whether someone set that up because they're trying to put Hannah in that position because they're going to try and use her as leverage against Owen or something. Because when they roll up when Max and Owen meet up with Dawn, which I didn't realize that guy, what's his name, Standish? I kept being like, who is this guy supposed to be? I completely didn't realize. It's like, oh right, that's, what's his name, Dave? He's the husband that was dodged. He's the wet work dude for the CIA that hadn't paid his child support. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that's who you were. He was like, yeah, oh, my ex-wife. Also, I don't even think those kids are even mine. And Owen's just kind of got look like, okay, I guess. So they're getting interrogated because Dawn's trying to figure out, whether they had anything to do with Xander's death. And she's like, yeah, I kind of sold Xander out. And she's like, yeah, we can make it seem like it had nothing to do with our operation. And it's like, well, it kind of did. But it's like, Max is so keen on getting back home that if this operation doesn't go through, she can't go home. This operation is the only means. So it's like, right, Dawn gets what she wants. It's like, yeah, you're trying to get the position in Moscow. You're not too heartbroken about, Xander. I mean, it's like, yeah, a CIA officer got killed, but also at the same time, the silver lining is she did get rid of her main competition for the job. So it's like, hey, it's a win-win. I get to go back home and you get to enjoy the Moscow job. And it's like, well, what about the lawyer? She's like, well, I got Max made it seem like she had dirt on him. It's like, well, they have slept together, so part of me wonders, it's like, was there some photo evidence of that or something? Or I was like, I don't think there would have been an opportunity, and it's too short at a time frame, because I was about to say, like, you don't think it's like a thing of like she's pregnant and she set that up? And I'm like, no, that's too short of a time frame. She would have never had, there wouldn't be a situation really know that this early or something like that, even if that was a case. I'm sure we're very safe about it regardless, but it's just, I don't know. It's like, so I was like, other than Hannah, I was like, what other leverage? But I guess it's like, well, Max knows, like, she's like, well, we already slept together, so I've kind of worn him down. I know that, I mean, he's always kind of gotten attached to her regardless. We've seen that over the course of the season, so she knows, like, yeah, like, the fact is the lawyer won't be an issue because I have him so wrapped around my finger. So it's like, cool. Now let's get this operation underway. We had to tell the head honchos, hey, our operation isn't compromised. Let's see this through. Boom, let's go. See Lev drop off the money. It seemed like everything was super kosher until a squad rose up. And the whole Nisha, what was that? Nisha, was that her name? It's like, I was confused by it because I keep being like, wait, are those two separate people or is that the same actor? Because it's like the blonde hair kind of throws me and I can't tell if that's the same actor who was pretending the character. Well, she presented herself as Marta at first, but that's why I'm like, well, he says like, oh, that was Nishka, but it's like that might have been her at one point in time, but Marta is still involved. So I might have been wrong, but still right in the end. That might have been it. Because he wouldn't recognize Nishka because I saw her picture wasn't her picture on the wall, because also Max says like, yeah, Nishka like was the one who initially put the bounty on her head, like wanted her dead regardless. So I'm wondering what that's about. So it's like, but is she doing her own thing? Is it like, it's like, it can't be that she's aware of Max's circumstance, because why roll up on Lev's place like that? Because they ended up killing Lev's people too, so I guess it's like, oh, you're a backstabber, you're anyone that's willing to do business with Max. Even he said like, right, there's plenty of people that want you dead besides me, and I guess they didn't want to put her in this position where she'd have Lev and his backing, because he could be her way in, and kind of screwing up that deal prevents her from easily swinging her way back home. So things pop off. Owen gets in the middle of everything and ends up saving Max. I thought he was going to end up killing the dude beforehand, or at the very least because he was hesitating to pull the trigger. I thought, hey, Max is going to kill the dude beforehand and Owen doesn't even have to do anything. But he still ends up having to pull the trigger and he kills one of the dudes, and one of the other guys was nearly almost strangled him to death. But luckily Max saved him. But it's still the shock of, cool, I'm covered in blood. Like, he's been in bad situations before, but it's the first time he's ever had to kill someone. Plus, he's covered in blood. Max ended up killing Lev, and Lev was supposed to be like the end person for them with all this. But it's like, well, even Max made it clear, it's like, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't betray you, which she didn't. But it's like, you will never fully believe me. And if I let you live, you're always going to potentially come after me, because there's always going to be a part of you that doesn't trust me. So she has no choice but to kill him, because it's like, right, you were my only way home, but you could also be the jeopardization of me going home. So I'm going to have to put you down. So luckily they get out of there, but it's just too much. And Owen has already been spiraling for a while now, and it's just gotten worse and worse over the course of the season. Till this point, it's just he's had enough, and he wants to walk away. He's like, I'm done with the CIA. I'm done with you. Like, I'm so stupid for even being here. To the point, Max pulls a gun on him and it's like, no, I need you. And for him, it's like, he's like, I'm so stupid. I looked at you, my incessant need to save you, because I saw you as someone who, despite everything, underneath the psychopathic killer, I saw the person who had been through tragedy, who had been through loss. I thought I could save you. I thought I could change you, but I can't. You're just going to be the same person. He's like, and me, his incessant need to, and once again, it's like, it's been built on off that conversation time and time again, especially with like Terrence too, of him feeling like he doesn't matter and wants it, like he has something to prove, when in actuality he doesn't. It's like, oh yeah, dead dad, manic mom, like, you know, who cares? Like, you know, it's like, that's no reason to do all the stupid things that I've done, the selfish things that I've done, you know? He's trying so hard to prove stuff to not only everyone else, but also to himself. And it's just like, I'm stupid for that. And I'm walking away from you. Because him saying all that, it does cut deep with Max. Like, he was a means to an end. But I think despite everything, he was someone that she liked him. Because it's the first person in a long time who went above and beyond for her. He's like, yeah, I kind of screwed you over from time to time going behind your back. But there was some genuineness of, I do believe he did have an effect on her, whether he realized it or not. Because in the end, for him, it's like, no, your incessant need to survive. You're so deep in it that you'll never find your way out. You're so deep that there's no getting out of that abyss. Like, that need to survive is so ingrained in you. You can't break yourself free from that no matter what. You're willing to do anything and everything, sacrifice whoever you want to. And despite me trying to do with all of that, like, I can't. Like, I'm done. And he walks away, which Max later on calls up Don and is like, yeah, that lawyer, he's an issue. We need to take care of him. Owen calls up Hannah and is like, I made a big mistake. You were right from the very beginning. But before either one of them can meet up with Don and Hannah respectively, they get snatched up, and it's like, okay. So that's interesting, which is super interesting considering, like, Max was literally potentially about to have Owen killed, so, because he was about to jeopardize his operation, which both of them need this to work out, you know, for her to go home and for Dawn to get the cushy position she needs, so this all needs to succeed. And so they both got kidnapped. Hannah saw that. I mean, Nyland did say, like, right, if someone ever calls me on your behalf again, you're fired, which I'm sure Owen would appreciate that now. It's like, cool, fire me. Please fire me, but it's like, well, even firing or quitting, it's still probably all going to get put on you regardless. So, but it's just like, every time you think you're out, you get dug deeper and deeper into all of this. So the moment it's all said and done, the lady Marta rolls up, and it turns out it is in fact Carolina. Once again, Nishka and Carolina, like, they have the blonde hair. So I never, like, the woman at the hotel, I don't know if that was Nishka and Marta, like, because I kept being like, wait, is the woman at the bar Marta, and the woman that was in the car, the one who ended up killing Xander, is that the same person? It might be two different people, and I kept confusing and inflating them, but I was still right that the person that he met at the bar was Carolina, because they were so vague about how long it's been. like since whatever happened to Hannah, and I felt like that was going to be the twist that they were going to go with. I mean, not with Hannah, but with Carolina. I figured that was the twist they were going to go with, because I was like, well, how old would she be? How, I was like, I mean, once again, it's not like he's on like, I mean, he's in his mid-20s, and we have no idea how old those photos are of her. It could be like, yeah, those photos, well, because we know she became an asset 12 years ago, so those photos could have been from like 12 years ago. So she could be like, for all we know, like anywhere like 18 to 20 or something like that, or maybe even older. Because Max never ever really went into, I mean, that's the thing too of like, we don't know if Max knew that her daughter was still alive. I don't think because when she saw Carolina, she was super shocked. So either she was under the impression she died because of stuff that went down all those years ago, and she pops Max. Now, we don't know if Max is dead, because she didn't go for the headshot. She went for a body shot. So there's a good chance Max is still alive. I was like, that's interesting after doing the Carolina twist. If you killed Max, I don't think you do that. But I mean, I don't know, man. You do see her get shot and the wound starts bleeding. I was like, I don't think this was all some ruse or anything like that. Because I was about to say like her being there as well. I was like, not unless this was all some play by Carolina, but it's like, in the sense that Max is in on it, but it didn't seem like it. So I don't think she's dead, but who knows? And now she's like, cool, so who are you, and why are you running around with my mother? So it's like, oh boy. So I think she got grabbed by someone else who's at the top of like this Russian mafia stuff. To be fair, she hasn't been here in like 5 years, so it might be something that happened 5 years ago where she thought her daughter died. Like I said, maybe it was like when she was trying to escape, and that's when stuff happened. The fact is, like I said, every photo was of her as a baby or a child of what we saw of Carolina. We never saw her like older, so that's what makes you go like, I guess that's meant to make you think like, oh, Carolina died at like a young age, whatever the circumstances. Maybe she might have been a little kid at the time, but it's like, no, she looks like a late teen, if not early to mid 20s. So it's like, who knows what those circumstances are, what this all means. And I mean, luckily Max could track Owen, which obviously it's interesting how that finally came into play, but also Dawn can track Max, but her phone might have gotten dumped, so they might be kind of screwed in that department. Yeah, this operation went all kinds of super sideways, and it's just like, yeah, Owen being over his head from the very beginning. I was so curious like how they were going to wrap up this season, and I didn't know if it was going to be a thing of like, is this just going to be like a season 1 case, and then maybe like in the future it's going to be a different case entirely. It's like, no, it seems like it's all going to be to connect the thread of, yeah, you're actually, because it's still technically all connected to Owen's first case, because this is all about the gray mailer that he ended up getting mixed up in at the very beginning. So this is actually his first thing as a lawyer, first real case. I mean, we don't know. It don't seem like he investigated anything else with the CIA prior to this, but I could be mistaken. At the time of me recording this, it is January 9th. So it has been a little while since the show dropped. It still hasn't been announced whether or not the show is coming back for a second season, which isn't too unheard of, because sometimes like Netflix jumps on that stuff. Sometimes it takes a little longer than this, but I do hope we are getting a season 2. It does seem like it's doing pretty well numbers wise. It's been in, I think, the top 10 for a little while. At the time of recording it's still it's in the 10th spot currently, at least here in the US on Netflix. So hopefully that means a lot. Also, I looked into it. I didn't realize this. The creator of the show, Alexi Hawley, he's also the person behind the Rookie shows, The Rookie and The Rookie Fed. So it was like, okay, so that also explains the Nathan Fillion connection there. So I thought that kind of makes a little sense. Either way, I do hope we get a season 2. I love to see where all of this ends up going, where this all ends up taking us. Like I said, is Max actually dead? I still don't think so, but finally exploring what happened to Carolina, and also I think is it Carolina or is it just Caroline? I think it's Carolina. Either way, what happened to her and how she ended up in the circumstances that she's in, and also turns out, obviously, I didn't talk about it before, but it also confirms that, like, because the episode made it almost make you think like, oh, maybe he's just so paranoid that, you know, when he ran into her when he ran into quote unquote Marta at the bar, a couple episodes back, that he was just paranoid and was like wrong about her being the spy or whatever, like trying to like sexploit him or whatever. And it's like, no, he was all right. Obviously, she had no idea who he really. She probably figured like, oh, you must be a spy or something, but she had no idea about the situation with oh god, Max, until she was there with Kirill, I think. But either way, like I said, fingers crossed. I'd love to see what they'd end up doing with the season 2. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.